we're here to bring a new type of news show.
New insights, new styles, and new topics every day.
We are News Generation.
Bringing news just for you. It's Wednesday, August 26th here in Seoul. I'm Lee-Jin, and this is News Generation. Joining us today is Ki-hoon.
Happy Wednesday.
Happy Wednesday, and also Kyle's with us today.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming in, and both are here to speak on behalf of people in their 20s and 30s. So it's the middle of the week, and what better way to take a break than with a trip to the movies? So theaters are buzzing with new releases and plenty of films to choose from. So there's no shortage of reasons to grab some popcorn and settle in for a good movie. And these days, the Korean film industry is especially lively, bringing fresh stories and plenty of options to moviegoers. So starting with you, Kyun, how often do you go to the movies, and can you tell us what was the last movie you saw in the theaters?
To answer your first question, I think I go once every 2 months or so. It's not that often, but it's way more than I actually used to go before COVID because, for many different reasons. But I tend to watch many blockbuster movies on the big screen rather than wait until it's released on OTT platforms. The latest movie that I watched at the cinema was Hope, directed by Naongjin, starring Jo In-sung and Hwang Jung-min. Now, although there are divided reviews on this movie, I personally liked it, and that's what matters the most to me. And watching any kind of film it's a fun experience, a great way to kind of kill time as well, with your friend especially. And while watching at home and at the cinema, it has its pros and cons. I think there are some movies that must be actually watched at the cinema on the big screen with the surround, high quality sound system. So right now, there are great Korean movies along with many international blockbuster films showing right now. But it's great to see that the Korean film industry is doing well again, because they've had their moments, ups and downs,
right.
But we're on an upward trend. So I hope this really continues with more movies to watch, perhaps during the Chuseok holidays as well, which is coming up next month.
Right, it's true. I've actually also watched Hope, and I watched it obviously in the theaters as well.
Did you enjoy it?
I actually did enjoy it.
Okay.
I know it got mixed reviews, people had different opinions on it, but I think I had a great experience because I watched it in a movie theater.
Definitely.
Like you mentioned the sound system as well, and
Right.
that really added to the way the film was made, I guess. So what about you, Kyle?
Oh yeah, so honestly, I had not really been to movie theaters since pandemic, but I started going back to theaters last year. F1, the movie, was the movie that got me back in the theater seat. But recently, I started watching a lot of Korean films too, like 왕과 사는 남자. Also, it was a huge hit.
Right.
And The Hope that we mentioned too. Like some of the movies that require special formats or need intense sound system that you cannot get from home. So like IMAX movies, 4DX movies, if they release on theater, then I try to go there. So now I am going there at least once in quarter, so less than you, but still going there, try to have the experience that you cannot get from home.
Right, and that seems to be part of a bigger trend we're seeing in Korea, with audiences gradually returning to movie theaters for that special experience. So we're going to talk more about this, but first, let's take a look at the screen. With the rise of OTT platforms, trips to the movie theater had become few and far between for a while. But in 2026, that trend appears to be changing. Going to the movies is once again becoming a popular pastime, particularly among younger audiences. One reason may be a string of box office hits in Korea, many of which are seen as film's best experience on the big screen. Today on News Generation, we take a closer look at whether audiences are really returning to theaters, why they have been hesitant to go in the first place, and what moviegoers expect from the cinema experience going forward. Just as we saw in the video, movie theaters are making a comeback in Korea, with audiences, especially younger moviegoers, returning to watch films on the big screen. And this revival comes at a time when the theater experience has had to compete with the convenience of streaming. So are people actually returning to movie theaters? Are there figures to back this up? And if so, what is driving this comeback?
Yes, so I brought some interesting numbers. So in the first half of this year alone, movie theaters hit 57 million viewers, which is more than Korean population, which is huge. And that's about 34% jump from last year. So local Korean movies like 왕과 사는 남자, which I love, and 살목지 and the Hope that we mentioned, making a strong showing and then bringing vitality back to Korean box office. The biggest takeaway here is that the younger generation is the one that is the main demographic that leading this trend, that bringing people back to the cinema. Korean box office CGV's ticketing stats show that the moviegoers in their 20s made up to 30 to 40% of the audience for major hits, which is almost like the half, and which is way higher than any other age groups. So it is interesting that the generation to be that known for glued to OTT services is actually leading the comeback to theaters.
So that is quite a turnaround, especially considering that younger audiences are often seen as a generation most comfortable with watching movies just right at their home in their couches. So what's drawing them back to theater when they have so much content available at their fingertips? So what is it specifically about the theater experiences that is bringing younger audiences back to the movie theater?
Ultimately, I think what millennials and Gen Z are looking for is the experience they can only get from the cinema, other than, OTT platforms or through their smartphones, or even from home. So according to K-공감, a weekly policy magazine in South Korea, about 60% of younger respondents said they go to the movies because they want to immerse themselves in a film on a big screen with high quality sound system. Now that trend is showing up in the numbers as well. In the first half of this year, revenue from premium formats such as IMAX, 4DX and ScreenX jumped 56.3% from a year earlier. And these days, going to the movies is more than actually just simply watching a film, collecting merchandise, afterwards, posting the experience on social media, creating memes, and sharing reviews and interpretations have all become the part of the cultural experience. Now, of course, some of that can also happen with streaming, but cinemas actually offer something more and different, from premium screens, exclusive merchandise, and in-person events with actors and filmmakers, which many avid moviegoers actually want to actually see. That's one of the reasons they actually go to the movies, to see the actual actors in face-to-face and kind of communicate with them and have that kind of fan experience as well. So these are the reasons why many younger people are actually drawn back to the cinema these days.
So it seems appeal goes beyond simply watching a movie. It's about turning movie going into an experience of its own. But if the big screen and immersive experiences are what audiences are looking for, that also raises a question of why they moved away from the theaters in the first place. So what was keeping people away from movie theaters before? I mean, for you mentioned it was a pandemic, obviously.
Yes, so obviously these OTT streaming services got way much popular after pandemic, from in the middle of pandemic and then after pandemic. And then I feel like a lot of people feel like there's already more than enough movies to watch on OTT, and then not enough movies that are actually worth going to the theaters. Because if you think of the ticket prices, when you go, it's around 15K Korean won, which is same amount of money that people pay for monthly OTT subscription. So before that, people used to think about this way. Also, I just mentioned about the ticket prices. So ticket prices went up dramatically compared to pre-pandemic. It is true that the ticket price have doubled, sometimes even tripled. And then when you think of back in the days when you go to the theaters in the morning, the ticket price usually up around 5,000 Korean won, and now it's around the cheapest ticket you can get is 10K Korean won. So in terms of the price wise, it would definitely play as a hurdle for people. So to ease this, the government even stepped in and expanding the Culture Day discount from once to twice a month, and then offering up to 6,000 Korean won to people to get a discount for movie tickets. But it wasn't enough to make people come back to the theaters.
And I guess that's what makes the comeback of younger audiences even more interesting, especially given the cost and convenience factors. So to learn more about what keeps people coming back to watch films on the big screen, we're going to talk to someone who frequently goes to the movies and to hear about what makes a theater experience worth it. And that conversation is coming up right after the break, so don't go anywhere.
NewsGen wants to hear from you. Go to YouTube and search out Channel Arirang News. Click Posts and cast your vote in the poll. Make a new type of news with us.
We're We're joined now by Sunwoo, a college student who's always among the first to catch new Korean and international releases at the cinema. So hello, Sunwoo. Thank you so much for connecting with us today.
Oh, hi. Hi. It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
All right, Sunwoo. So how often do you go to the movies, and what do you enjoy most about watching films in the theater?
Well, I don't have a specific number that I try to hit, but on average, I think around twice a month. But it really depends on the time of the year. If there are multiple tentpole movies coming out, like it is now with Hope, Spider-Man Brand New Day, and now The Odyssey, I'll go as much as I have to. And also the awards season around February and March is when most of the award-winning or nominated films are released in Korea. So I definitely watch a bunch of movies then. And I also try to visit the Busan International Film Festival every year, and that racks up very quickly because you can watch four films per day in theory. So last year, I think I watched around 17, 18 films in 5 days, which was a glorious but an exhausting run. So there's that. And what I love about the movies is the immersion, I'd say because the audience culture in Korea is very well mannered, at least most of the times. It's not like those viral videos where like people scream and holler and throw popcorns at the screen, even though I can't say for sure that's the norm there. So when I watch a movie, when I watch a movie, it's just me and the film, right, on a big screen, booming sounds, no distractions, and I just love that. And I also love the walk home, after watching a movie, even if it's a bad one, and the experience and the emotion kind of lingers and it makes you think. And I personally find that quite rejuvenating.
Thank you for that, Sonu. Now, we cannot ignore the high ticket prices these days. So do you have any tips for saving money on movie tickets as an avid moviegoer?
Ooh, that's a great question. I mean, there's the Wednesday like Culture Day discounts that you can definitely utilize. There are also a lot of giveaway coupons. There were government issued discount coupons. I don't know if it's over. It probably is. It was around a month ago. I watched Spider-Man with that. But definitely keep an eye on that because I'm sure that they'll do that again. It's 2 tickets per person. So if you're trying to be selfish, you can reserve yours for yourself and you can also tag along with a friend if you really want to save some money. And also for movies that need to attract audiences, they do give away discount coupons on a first come, first served basis for like regular 2D screenings. So please check because recently I was on my way to watch Steven Spielberg's Disclosure Day. And then it occurred to me like, oh, what if there's a discount coupon for this film? And I looked it up and lo and behold, it was there. Right. But I couldn't cancel my ticket because it was too late. So don't do that because no one's going to save your money for you. Right. And next, I'd say go to indie theaters, right? A good place to start is a website called Dietrich, and you can find a whole host of indie cinema near you there. And ticket prices are cheaper, right? They do screen big movies, but you'll also find indie films, international films, like famous re-releases. So I do definitely recommend. And one last thing, in my opinion, the best way to save money on movies, and this might be controversial, just sometimes pull back on the popcorns. And yeah, this might sound blasphemous for a lot of people. I do love me some popcorn, don't get me wrong, but you can basically watch an extra movie with that money. So I'd say do consider that. Yeah.
But how can you not eat popcorns? That's a real question. No. Thanks for the information. Also, thanks for not gatekeeping it. Really like the indie theater that you mentioned. I would definitely go and check out. So lastly, what do you think theaters need to do to keep younger audience coming back?
Well, that's a tough question. Recently, a theater near me, a pretty big one, I think the image was on like, previously, closed after over 10 years, right? And I visited the theater on the last day of its run, and I realized just how much attached I was to the place itself, right? Because it's inherently tied to all the great memories I have growing up watching movies there. And I have a whole host of special memories tied to a specific theater, a physical location, all around everywhere, even in other countries. So all that to say, obviously there's less need for people to go to the cinema now, right? Streaming platforms have a whole bunch of movies and shows, and there's so many content in general, and that's not a trend that you can necessarily reverse. But I also feel that the tides are shifting. I think a lot of young people, including myself, are feeling tired and kind of detached from all the choices that we're bombarded with. I think everyone knows what it feels like to refresh YouTube until you find the right video to watch, right? So I think young audiences are gravitating towards cinema because it's tangible, right? And it offers a specific experience and an immersion. So writing that, I think theaters should, like you guys said, move away from the idea of we just screen movies and move towards emphasizing the place itself and say we offer experiences, events, and memories, right? Like you guys said. So the idea of watching the Odyssey in IMAX, for example, it's great because it's an experience that you can't replicate elsewhere. It's also like screening sporting events or concerts. They're giving away posters and items as mementos. There are reclining seats, and you can have full meals in theaters in some of them. And obviously, like some of them are way out there, but overall, I think that's the right approach, because it's the place, the cinema itself, elevating and making something special. So my only hope is that the audience's affinity or attraction towards the cinema, the place, eventually bleeds over to the movies themselves as an art form.
And I think we definitely we are seeing that shift starting to happen, and I can really tell that you truly appreciate movies. So thank you so much for coming on and sharing your insights with us today.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
So we just talked to a student who enjoys watching movies in theaters, but what keeps him coming back, how he navigates high ticket prices, and what theaters can do to attract younger audiences. And his experience reflects a broader trend we're seeing in Korea's movie industry, with audiences having more reasons to return to theaters. So what else is behind this renewed interest in going back to the theaters?
Yes, so the good thing is there are actually good Korean movies to watch again, which I'm really happy to see this trends. Attendance dropped big time last year, but this year we're seeing great lineups of Korean movies with different genres and scales that give people reason to come back. And what is interesting is that not just like giant blockbusters. We're talking about Korean romance. Horror movies are also blowing up thanks to social media and word of mouth. Between people. On top of that, as streaming services gradually raise their prices, people are getting tired of paying all the subscriptions they subscribe, because recently, since a lot of people subscribe to multiple OTT services, so if you pay just for one OTT services, it's gonna be like $10. But if you having more OTT services, it could be a financial burden for like monthly spending, and it drives them back to cinemas.
So it is quite interesting that this comeback of people going back to the movie theater isn't just being driven by one type of movie. A combination of the strain of constantly paying for multiple streaming services and a more diverse range of Korean films coming out have definitely contributed. But it's not just the movies themselves that are changing. Theaters are also working to give audiences more reason to leave the couch. So how are they creating experiences that people can't get at their homes?
Beyond premium formats like IMAX and 4DX, theaters are offering a wider range of experiences that are best enjoyed on the big screen, from concert films to live sports broadcasts to fan events and even re-releases of classic films. So there's also a growing trend of repeat viewing, with moviegoers actually returning to see the same film in a premium format, collect exclusive merchandise that comes along with it, or just take part in special events. So while we may no longer be in an era when people actually watch every movie at the theater, there are actually more reasons to go to the cinema for certain films and the experiences that actually come along by be physically being in the theater.
So it seems the key may be giving audiences a reason to say, okay, so this is worth seeing on the big screen. So after this discussion we had today about movies and watching movies actually in theaters, what are your hopes for the future of movie theaters?
So personally, and I don't think it's just for me, but going to a cinema, going to a theater is not just about just watching movies. We're talking about the general experience, immersive sound, and like bigger screen, and popcorns too. I would never let that go. So it's all about the whole experience, and I really hope to see more Korean films that deliver that kind of beyond screen magic, so that we can we can talk about more about experience itself, so people can fall in love with Korean movies again.
Right. What about you?
Honestly, we can't argue too much about the high ticket prices because everything else has pretty much become more expensive. But in terms of the experience, people are actually willing to pay more on top of what it's already worth if it's actually worth it. And if there's a film that they've actually wanted to watch for a long time, people, are actually willing to, step out of their couch and head towards the cinemas. Now, since film distributors have a lot of influence and power, movies kind of lack, I guess, variety in terms of which movies are actually showing. And many of these indie films that people actually want to watch, they're very limited in terms of, screen time. So I think a lot of people are saying because they appreciate so many different genres and different types of films, like lower budget movies, that cannot be seen at the cinemas because they're not screened as much. People actually want more variety, and that will help the overall movie industry as a whole. And just moving forward, I think since going to the cinema just last month, it's been quite a while since I actually went to the cinema, but I really enjoyed it. Not because of the movie. The movie was great itself, but just the whole experience of actually not being able to pause the screen and having to sit in the cinema in the same seat for the whole the screening time for about almost 3 hours. It was a different kind of experience because we're not so used to it compared to before. So I think it's a new way of just going back to what was actually good, especially for young people, because we're so accustomed to being on our phones, just skipping through content we don't want to watch. We watch another film and we're just bombarded with so many choices that in the end you just don't end up watching anything. And that's my case as well. I flick through all the contents. I'm like, should I watch this? No, I want to watch that. And then I just waste time just looking through all the different contents out there. So I think just watching a movie will be a great experience moving forward.
Right, so the movie theater may no longer be the only place to watch a film, but it's proving there's still experiences worth leaving the home for. As Korean films make a comeback and theaters continue to reinvent the big screen experience, moviegoing could be entering a new chapter. So perhaps the future isn't about choosing between the theater and OTT, but knowing which stories are worth seeing on the big screen. And that brings us to the end of today's episode of News Generation. But News Gen will be back tomorrow at 10:30 a.m. Korea time with more stories and discussions. A big thanks to Ki-hoon.
It's always a pleasure.
And also Kyle.
Thanks for having me.
And to our viewers, thank you so much for watching. Hopefully today has inspired you to trade the couch for the big screen. We are News
News
Generation.
Generation.